Our contributions in education will be our legacy in this industry.
Whether it's through live education or maybe through social media, we're always trying to make a personal connection with you, the learner.
At SamVia, we believe our smile is our business card and our personality is our logo. And how we make people feel after you experience our education and tools is our trademark.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us, my friends, and be a part of the SamVia community.
Well, hello and welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for SamVia. Hope all you guys are out there just kicking butt this week before Thanksgiving. We know it's a big week in the salon. So this week we're super excited because we have Blake Reed Evans on here to talk to us about social. You might be wondering, wait, why are we talking about social on a thing called Wellness Wednesday? Well, we believe that health and wellness is holistic. So that means your world, that means your job, that means your mind, that means your spirit. It means everything has to come together. So you're going to see business, you're going to see social, you'll see a little bit of everything on here. Before we get rolling with Blake, just want to remind you that next week we are actually taking a bit of a break from education. Just like you, we're going to be super busy next week too. So we want to just give you guys a break from education next week because we know you're going to be slammed in the salon. But don't worry, the following week we have a jam-packed group of people to join us. November 30th, we've got Ira Pope Sage joining us. He's an incredible independent educator. If you're not familiar with Ira, highly recommend you go check him out. Just look up Ira Pope Sage on Instagram. He has created a cutting system called the clock cutting method. And it's super cool. It's really brilliant. So you definitely want to see that. On Tuesday, Transformation Tuesday, December 1st, we're going to have Ruth Roach on here. What? Yeah, so we got Ruth in the house, which is going to be so much fun. She's going to be doing some hair cutting for us. And the next Wellness Wednesday on that December 2nd, we have Urish Hooker. Urish is an educator. He's an artist. He's an entrepreneur. He's going to be talking about how when one resource seems to disappear, others just seem to appear. Imagine that. And of course, we do have a Show Must Go On coming up in December. That's going to be December 7th. So put that on your calendar. We've got Braden Peltier. We've got Jamie DeGrazia. And then you have me and Sam. We're going to be doing some haircutting together. So that's going to be super killer. Do you want to let you know we do have more Black Friday deals coming up, just in case you missed the pre-Black Friday deals, which were awesome. But don't worry, we've got more coming for you. And December 6th, Sam does have a hands-on Redken class coming up. And what's kind of cool is if you register for that at redkenpro.com/education, you can actually win a shear package worth $500. So super cool. Anyway, that's the announcements for right now. Let's get on with it. Blake, so from a personal standpoint, just want to say Blake is such a cool, incredible human being. We have gotten to work with him on multiple occasions, and it just seems like our paths always cross. So he's just such a great human being. He's an incredible Redken artist, brilliant hairdresser. But in the last year or so, especially, he has really taken off with the social media realm and really helping a lot of hairdressers to understand how to utilize social in a more authentic way and in a way that actually benefits you. So in the chat, in the comments, please say, hey, Blake, or welcome, Blake. Let's bring him on.
What's up, Andrew, and what's up, everybody?
So glad to have you. And you've got people watching from all over the world. You've got Pakistan, you've got Minneapolis, you've got Vermont, you've got Australia. Vegas, of course, is in the house. Vegas is always in the house. I feel like that's just a standard, right? Vegas is everywhere. So yeah, you've got a great crew of people here to join you. And yeah, so you've already started to feel the slam in the salon, yeah?
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, but today particularly, I feel like the week before is almost sometimes worse than the week of. But also, like, I'll take these problems. It's awesome.
Sure. I mean, we all had some time off, so might as well
Yeah,
be busy now, right?
I know. I feel like after being told I couldn't do hair for 8 weeks, it made me even more passionate about doing hair. So I'm just thankful for any moment that I can be doing someone's hair.
For sure, for sure. So, just curious, because we are going to be focusing on social, and you've been putting a lot of energy into helping educate the industry on social, what got you into wanting to make that such a focus?
Yeah, I think social media for me has like completely changed my life. Is as a stylist and then also as a educator. And I realized that we spend so much time as an industry obsessing over our technical skill in terms of like cutting and balayage and vivids and finishing. And social media is one of those things that I feel like I used to go into it without a plan, and then I wouldn't get results that I would hope for. And then I realized if I, approached it with a certain type of plan, take classes on it, that it benefited me as a stylist. And then I realized that there was a gap in education to do that, because I think a lot of social media classes are like, how do you get so many followers? And it's not really about the followers, it's about the community. And particularly as a stylist, like getting people into your chair. So that's really like kind of what set me off in the past couple of years going towards social.
How has social been beneficial to you as far as like with your clientele?
I think that it benefits the relationship deeper, like when I first started doing hair almost 10 years ago, clients were coming in like every 3, 4 weeks. I had some clients that were coming in like every 10 days. And then as like ombre and balayage became popular, our time together kind of started like spreading out a little bit more.
Sure.
And then, with quarantine, it's spaced out even further. So I realized that social media was a really great way to like stay in touch with your guests, and maintain that relationship with them. So like, just liking their vacation picture or like the picture of their dog, it just lightly keeps that relationship engaged. And that's my favorite thing about social media is the sense of community and that relationship building.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if we would have had the coronavirus situation 7 or 8 years ago when we didn't have Zoom, we didn't have all these platforms for communication and staying in touch? Like, it would have been a very different experience, that's for sure.
I know. I think about it. I'm like 100 years ago when the Spanish flu went around. I was like, I cannot imagine. Just like when you talk about true isolation, like that's for
Yeah,
real.
for real.
Um, but yeah, if it was going to happen, at least it happened with beautiful platforms like this.
For sure. So what do you feel are some of the common challenges that people run into with trying to develop their social presence?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and you guys let us know in the chat, like, what is it that you feel like is holding you back when it comes to social media? Because I know personally it was imposter syndrome. Like, Andrew, I felt like
Mm,
I was out there just trying to like copycat other people. And then somehow I got myself lost along the way. So I feel like it was, trying to be myself, trying to be other people, and then losing myself along the way. Um, yeah, and like Shirley saying on here too, like she felt like she was faking it, like I totally feel that. Judgment, that's another thing that someone was saying, Tara on YouTube was saying it. It's like that sense of like, what are other people saying about me? Are they judging me? What are they thinking? Am I going to
yeah.
get bad comments? So these are some of the things that I feel like are extremely challenging.
Yeah. I know for me too, like I've always struggled with, it's like I know that this thing is important,
Yeah.
but I'm such a like I just want to be present with what's around me, and so have such a mixed relationship with this thing. And as much as possible, I don't want it in my hand. I don't want to be on it, but I also recognize that this is the platform that we have at this point to be able to market and to be able to connect with people. So authenticity has been a really big challenge for me personally, just feeling like I can interact consistently enough to develop a community and still have it just feel like I'm not doing it just because I feel like I should, but I'm actually doing it because it feels like something I want to do.
Yeah, I think you touched on something really good. It's like, sometimes I just want this thing to like go away for a second. And that's why I'm a huge fan of like protect your bubble and like set the people up around you. And sometimes setting people up around you means like turning your notifications off on the app. And I
Mhm.
know that a lot of people um, freak out when I say that, but like, don't like I've had Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all of that turned off because I found myself getting disconnected from the people that were in front of me. So I turned it off. And then when I open the app, I'm ready to work. And then I put the time into it to respond. There's so many amazing resources now, like on social media, auto responders on both Facebook and Instagram messaging. So you can even like have like your frequently asked questions, just have an auto responder. Um,
Interesting.
so there's so many different ways you can kind of protect yourself because I totally felt that too. I felt like I was like, when I have an 8 year or I have a 9-year-old daughter, but she was like 8 at the time, and she was like, "Daddy, you're always on your phone." And I'm like, I am on my phone. And for an 8-year-old to call me out on me being on the phone all the time, that was a big blow. So I
Yeah.
realized I just needed to like turn everything off, and then when I'm ready to go to it, then I'll open up the app.
Yeah. How many of you feel like you probably could use a little bit more boundary with your phone? I know that my wife and I kind of talk about that. Yeah. And Adina, just mentioned creating balance. And that's so true, Adina. Like, it's finding that balance, and one of the things that you said actually kind of hit me, it struck me, which is almost delineating, hey, this is work time versus this is family time.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think it's just like Adina's saying, it's creating balance, and I think we all need boundaries at work, and I think because we're such a relationship built industry that we think that we need to let ourselves be accessed by our guests at all times, and that's not true. So I think just creating the boundaries for yourself, and also it'll be better. Like for me, I tried focusing on social media when I'm in the salon, so either
Mhm.
that's 15 minutes before my shift, 15 minutes after, and if I have a gap in the middle of the day, I try building in time to work on social then, so that when
Mhm.
I do go home, I can actually be present with my loved ones.
Nice. Yeah. Sean, I asked how many people feel like they need a little more distance, and Sean put his hand up. I know Sean, and I know his wife will actually take his stuff away from him and hide it from him. So that's one way, just have your loved one, just be like, okay, just take this stuff.
Yeah, I
Um,
love it.
yeah, Rosalind saying, sometimes there's not enough time. And I think especially during these busy times where you're heavily double booked, stuff like that. So, to kind of keep that balance, what might you suggest for people that it is? It's like so many people, they're booked so solid that it's from the time they get there to the time they go home, they don't find
Yeah.
that space to post. So what are some thoughts around that?
Yeah, Rosalind, you bring up a really good point. I think the biggest thing is just scheduling time. So, like, literally create an appointment for yourself for social media. Because if you do this 1 hour once every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever that looks like for you, you can go into these apps, and on Facebook you can schedule the post ahead of time. On
Hmm.
Instagram, you can just get them loaded up into your drafts on Instagram, and you can get everything typed out from the picture to the captions to your hashtag to the people you're going to tag in it. And then instead of clicking post on Instagram, all you need to do is just backspace and then save draft. So at any given time, I'll have a ton of content ready to go, so that when I'm tired after a 12-hour shift of seeing like 20 people, that I can just go look down like a zombie, click post on my phone for my drafts, and I don't
Yeah,
have to think about it.
that's a great idea. Yeah, My friend Jamie Dana, she talks a lot about that, just kind of like building out so much content ahead of time when you do have some time. And Sean mentioned that he tends to take Sundays to get his stuff scheduled, which is such a fantastic idea, Sean. And
I love
yeah,
that.
I think that would make things less stressful to just know, okay, well, I don't have time, but I've got this kind of pocket full of content that it's like, okay, cool. I can just, and there's quite a few apps that actually will schedule that stuff for you, right?
Yeah, totally. If you want to use a good scheduling app, Planoly, that's Planoly, Planoly, they just got authorized to, they can just automatically post for you. And that's like brand new API. So it's really amazing because you can plug everything in there. You can even see what your Instagram feed will look like in the future. So if you're all about like your
Ooh,
aesthetics on your page, you can totally map everything out. It's really cool.
that's cool. I'm gonna check that one out.
Yeah. And it's like
I'm
brand new. Like
trust me, guys.
Instagram
I
didn't
am
let that
taking
happen.
this class from from our master here because if any of you follow me on Instagram, you know I suck at social media. It is so funny too because I've had classes where like, hey, can you talk to us about social? And I'm like, I can tell you what I know about social, which is sadly kind of quite a bit because I work really close with our social team. And so
Right.
I'm like, I can tell you what they tell me we should be doing. And like, they do a great job of it, of course, on Samvia. But I was like, I can share with you what I know, but do not look at mine as an example, please.
Yeah. I'm always a huge fan of finding like inspiration too, just kind of outside of when I do social media classes. Like I'm like, look at this person, look at that person. It's
Mhm.
really good. Yeah.
Earl saying, yeah, me too. Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
Earl. um, there was a question here too that actually I wanted to bring up Rosie's comment because I think this is brilliant. Isn't social media talking to your client about doing the hair? I mean, is that part of social media? We are stylists. We're always social media, which is kind of true, man. Like we are always in that social presence, which to be honest with you, I think is kind of part of the challenge sometimes for some of us that have a personality type that we need that separation from social. Like I need that space. So after a 12 or 14 hour, day at the salon in the middle of Thanksgiving rush, the last thing I want to do is get on and respond to comments and like and comment on other people's stuff to try and build community. So, what you're sharing with it, I think is still that solution, which is you kind of have to dedicate some time to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's two things. Get those notifications turned off. Like every single one of you, do it after this class or this presentation because
Mhm.
it's like the best thing that you can do to protect yourself. Because if the notifications aren't blowing you up, immediately you get that sense of like calm. Because
Yeah.
I'm an ambivert, so sometimes I love people and sometimes I just need distance from the energy. So I just need, so I like being able to have that control, and then you can also just plan time because the way I look at it is social media feeds my business. So 1 hour of social media to plan 2 weeks worth of content. If that content leads to new retail sales, new guests, or maintained relationships with current guests,
Yeah,
then it's time well spent, and it's good for business.
totally. Yeah. And to your point, like there was a study that they did where they basically took people's phone and they had them hooked up to machines calculating like their heart rate and blood pressure and all this stuff, and they took their phone and they set it behind them where they couldn't see it. Just the sound of the vibration of an alert or the tone of an alert, you would be blown away by how much it triggers a spike in your autonomic nervous system. So I think even from a wellness standpoint, it's much healthier for us to not be in this state of constantly being on and constantly being on alert. So I love that tip of just look, you know that you're getting messages. So why do you have to have a bell ringing in your ear every 30 seconds that like you just got a new post, you just got a new follower, you just got a new this, you
Yeah.
just got to do that.
Yeah, and the big thing is that the expectation for messages to be turned around by a consumer is anywhere from 24 to 36 hours on Instagram and Facebook.
Really?
So I encourage my clients to message me through Facebook and Instagram, because here's the thing: if they're texting you, they expect an immediate response.
True.
So when it's Facebook and Instagram, you get a little bit more of a buffer. So you have 24 to 36 hours to respond to messages anyways. I
That's
think that
interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah. And I think that, with how instant gratification our generation is, I think knowing that they don't expect 24 to, until 24 to 36 hours. And I think about myself too. If it goes more than 2 days, I'm like, wait a second, that person didn't message me back. But
Yeah.
Instagram is definitely not one of those things you expect immediate results from.
So how do you start to create the concept for what type of things you're going to share through social media?
Yeah, I think listening to the people that follow you, and like a lot of the time, if the people that follow you are your guests, just think about the stuff that they share with you that are challenges. So it's like getting my hair smooth, being able to control my fringe, getting my curls to have a lot of bounce, whatever the problem is, and just offer solutions. I think so often, I don't know about you guys, but let me know, like, do you guys feel like sometimes you have to like reinvent the wheel when it comes to content on social media? Because I know that I've been there. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not alone. Because, it's the thing that your guests just want to see you, and they just want to see you solving problems for them. So they can go to any XYZ influencer to see the same type of content, but if it's you being able to solve those problems for them, then it's that much better.
For sure. And that's a really good point. And it was something that Jason Everett brought up to me one time, because he did like this 30-day influencer challenge through his company one time. And he asked me to do some stuff for it. And I was like, I'm not an influencer, right? And he's like, no, but you have some things you can share about presentation and stuff. So anyway, one of the things that was on there was make it yours. And that was a super interesting thing to me, because that is definitely something I've always struggled with, even with education, is feeling like I have to create something that no one's ever heard before, or no one's ever seen before. But he's like, no, even if it's been said a million times, your audience wants to hear it from your voice, because you've built that connection with them. And that was a huge realization to me. And that was actually kind of some pressure off my shoulders. I was like, oh, that's true. Think about how many people I personally follow, and I see things that they post, and I'm like, I've definitely heard that before, but the way that that particular person presented it, or that person said it, that actually connected with me. Whereas the other times I've seen it or heard it, bounced off my forehead.
Yeah. I love that you say that. Chris Barron is one of my coaches for facilitation. Amazing person. And he was sharing with me, a lot of the time people are not paying you for the information that you give them, but they're paying you for your opinion on that subject matter. And that's exactly what our guests are doing. Like, they can get a haircut from anybody. To be honest, most guests don't know the difference between a good haircut and a great haircut. But they do care about what your point of view is. And just, think about the times your guests are like, so what do you think? What would I do? Or what would you do? What do you think about that? Same thing with products. If you're doing a 30-second video on your favorite Redken product, they want to know like why you love it, not why the brand told you you should love it. It's like, why do you specifically love that product?
That's so key. Yeah, Sonia, you're spot on. She said, good solving problems for others. And that's kind of marketing 101. Marketing 101 is look for what problem can you solve? What need can you fulfill? And so looking at, okay, what are those common challenges for our guests? And what are the needs of our guests? And how can I create some kind of solution through my social? That's kind of, it seems so obvious, right? But then there's all that pressure of the expectation too. I think like we kind of see what everyone else is doing. So we're like, well, I don't see other people doing that, or I don't see other people posting that.
Yeah, and I think it's because we're all like scared to death of being judged and like not liked, which is like, the way that I look at it is social media is a way for me to connect with my community. For me, it's professional hairdressers. Like I wake up every day. and I still continue to do hair behind the chair because of my love for professional hairdressers and making their lives better. And social media is one of those things where you're kind of scared to put yourself out there. But if you think about it, if you are putting yourself out there, then you're going to attract back the type of people that you're looking for. Those
Yeah.
people that you're looking for won't find you if you're not putting stuff out there, you know? So I had that big revelation a few years ago where I'm like, oh my God, I'm wanting to teach classes all the time. I want to have this amazing clientele in the salon, but these people aren't going to find me if I'm not putting myself out there. So I kind of got my ego and my little voice, you know, kind of out of my head. And I realized like I can help people, but they have to be able to find me. And that's where social media comes in.
For sure. For sure. So true, Terry. Yeah, for sure. Oh, Shirley, I love this comment too. Oh, you don't have to be a social media original. It's true. It's true. Yeah, Wendy, perfect. They will find you. And I think that is super key, you know. Like it's so important that we put stuff out that's authentic so that we attract the people that actually want to be a part of our community. Because if we aren't authentic to ourselves, that I think that's where that how you used the term, and now I forget, where you feel like you're not that person.
Imposter syndrome.
Thank you. God, I couldn't remember that. That's where I think imposter syndrome comes up, is if you're not doing it because it's truly you, if you're not posting stuff that's authentic to who you are, I think that's really where the imposter syndrome starts to come up. Like you're trying to do some or be something else or mimic or follow what other people have had success with. So maybe you're not posting things that actually are authentic to you.
Yeah. I think that's a huge thing, because I struggled with that for a long time. It's like, why isn't this magazine sharing this? Why isn't this brand sharing my content? Why am I not getting the views and the likes and the followers that other people are getting? And it's because I was trying to ride on their coattails. I was trying to go after whatever it is that they were doing. And then I was paying price for it. I wasn't growing as fast. I wasn't getting the kind of attention that I was hoping to get, because I was just trying to be someone else. And then I realized like I have a unique set of talents that I can offer the world. And if people are down for it, then they're going to join and they're going to follow along. If they don't like it anymore, they're going to unfollow. You know, and if they don't like what I have to say, 90% of the time, people just keep scrolling. They're not going to say anything mean. Once in a while, you'll get the mean comment, but that says a lot more about that person than it does about my content. And usually by the time I see the mean comment, the community has already like taken care of it before I even saw it. So, you know, I think that, you know, you just got to go out there and you got to be yourself. And I think a big piece that's missing from a lot of people's social media is their self. It's a lot of beautiful hair and not enough person of who's doing the hair.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point too, as far as content is concerned, because I think 4 or 5 years ago, we were telling people, don't put too much of yourself into it, that like people don't really care about the food you ate or your dog or your husband, like post about hair. But I feel like it's kind of shifted now, Blake.
Totally, which is why Instagram stories is amazing, because you can put like your coffee and it goes away after 24 hours, you know, like your coffee picture, unless that's like a huge part of maybe your coffee roaster at home, and maybe that's a huge part of like your self-identity, you know, but overall, you know, like post it on your Instagram stories and it goes away. Maybe, but here's the thing, like, you know, posting a picture with your dog is an amazing thing to do, because it humanizes you a little bit, you know, you get a lot of engagement whenever you share little snippets of your life.
Some of my best engaged pictures are me and my dog. It's like people love
it. People love dogs in general. I'm like on dog TikTok too. Like I see a ton of dog content.
Yeah. Earl's asking what do you create as your balance between personal and hair content?
Yeah, Earl, that's such a great question. I'm a huge fan of making things simple. So 80-20 rule of everything. So 80% the services you provide, and then 20% would be personal. And sometimes personal is the caption. Sometimes personal is the picture that you're sharing or the video. it's all about balance. They always say the first 3 photos should be crystal clear on what it is that you are offering on social media. So those first 3 on Insta should be reflective of what you do. So if 2 are hair for our sake, and then 1 is a picture, the message is clear. I think where people go wrong is where they post like 3 personal photos in a row to create a nice grid, and then all of a sudden it looks like you're like a travel blogger instead of a hairstylist.
Okay.
So hair definitely needs to be in the first 3, or a hair product, or something along those lines.
For sure. Yeah, and Amber and Candace, I apologize. We definitely should have brought up the kids too, because people love pictures of kids as well.
Totally.
I just don't have children. I'm a dog person, so sometimes I leave that out.
Yeah, no, you guys bring up, like, kids are great, and it's just the same thing, 80-20 rule. Like, if your first 3 photos are nothing but your children, your page all of a sudden seems like a mommy blog. But then if it's like 2 hair and 1 with your kids, it's amazing. And just think about the conversations we have in the salon. This is social media after all, so it's that social part. Your guests ask you questions all the time of like, so what's your partner like? Do you have children? Do you have pets? And they care like this much, because when they ask about your partner, they really want to talk about theirs.
Sure.
But social media is no different. It's social, so you want to share just share a nugget of information.
For sure. Yeah, and so this is kind of an interesting point too, even from a content standpoint, because some people do put a lot of thought and time into planning out that grid process. And I mean, I've always kind of been curious that there's kind of like that business term, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because that's a lot of energy to like plan out this really perfectly, organized grid and stuff. Do you feel like that really makes a big difference with how people perceive your feed?
I would, I have when I teach social, I always say there's like facts and then there's opinions. So I definitely have an opinion on it. I would love to know from everybody in the chat, like, what do you guys think? Like, do you think like a perfectly curated feed is good, or do you think like just a more raw and organic feed is good? I know my opinion was validated when I read an article last year that it says the death of the perfectly curated Instagram feed. And it's because it's inauthentic, and social media started off, like we said, like 5 or 6 years ago, it needed to be perfect. And then now, like, I'm desperate for like realness. I just want people to speak their truth and what it is that they're thinking and they're feeling. So that's more of my opinion, but I also I have friends that have perfectly curated feeds, and they're stunning and they're beautiful. I'm a Gemini, so there's 2 sides to everything. And sometimes I like things to be really nice and perfect, and then sometimes I like to mess it up a little bit too. If Adina's still on, she'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing too, Blake, is just as you're talking, it's almost 100% 50-50, because like one person, Twyla saying like the thought out, but not overly curated. Adina's like, I like it raw. Candace wants some consistency. Earl's saying he likes it raw, mixed, and so it's interesting because I guess it really comes down to who is looking at it. Like, it's the whole beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? Because to me personally, I could give a shit less if your thing is all blocked out and like perfectly organized and stuff. I want to get something from your post. And there's also the aspect too, Blake, of this is a huge thing that I learned from our social media team. In some ways, there's also the aspect of if your post never gets seen, then it's not worth posting it anyway. So you do kind of have to keep in mind like the algorithm and how that works and stuff, because, they were like, okay, well, yeah, we can post 2 of those education posts for you guys, but those don't perform. And that means that the 3rd post that's going to be a hair shot probably won't really get seen, because
100%.
the way that they explained it is almost like Instagram and Facebook are kind of like the parents to the naughty child. If the naughty child behaves the way that Instagram and Facebook wants it to behave, they reward it with more presence in front of the audience. If the naughty child misbehaves, then they punish you kind of. They're like, ooh, no, people don't like that kind of content. We're going to squish that down now. Like, you're not going to get seen. So but I haven't really had that conversation with them recently. Do you find that that's still consistent?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's sporadic posting. There's definitely like times that your audience is on more, but when you post like those three at once, you're totally right. That third one always lost. Like even if you look at the impressions of like how many people saw it, it's so low.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back. Well, before I go back to this question, is there anything else that you feel is important when we're starting to think about how, or sorry, not how, but what kind of content we're posting?
Yeah, I think it comes back to wrap it up is just like solve problems for people. You're not reinventing the wheel. It's so rare that you're going to come up with something that's just going to like, you know, blow people's minds. But just solve problems for the people that are following you, and you're going to get a really, really great response. So that's one of it. Two is just share yourself and share a little bit of a snippet of your life, a vacation photo, picture with your partner, your children, your pets, because people want to get to know you and see the person behind the profile. So I think that's a good starting point. And then batch your content. So in terms of like, instead of what type of content, it's just like when you have time, shoot like 3, 4, 5 videos in a row, so that you have content for the next few weeks.
Beautiful. Kind of not necessarily trick question, but I'll put kind of on the spot question.
Okay.
What do you feel is too personal?
Too personal. I think that in social media, you just have to make a decision on who you're willing to alienate. So if you, because I see people that just go for it. They post who they're voting for, what they're all about, you know, down to their like personal details in their relationship, the messiness in their life, and it totally works for that person. And I love that for them. I'm definitely a huge fan of posting about like my beliefs in terms of like human rights. And I know that that alienates people because I remember the first time I made a post in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, Andrew, I lost 100 followers within a week, and it just kept going down, and it was disappointing. But also at the same time, I'm like, good riddance, bye.
Yeah.
You know,
Not your
so
community.
not my community, definitely not my community. So, you know, I think it's just you got to make a decision on what you're willing to give up. I lost one guest out of all of that. So I guess, you know, in terms of business, it was one guest. And same thing, you know, good riddance. But I think it's just a decision on what you're willing, who you're willing to alienate. Because I see people really go there, and it's like their social media channel sometimes feels like you're right there with them to a friend venting. And you know, I think it's just a decision that you have to make. Because I see other people who just keep it even keeled. They don't post anything. But I can also tell you that even being even keeled and not saying anything will still alienate people, because that's going to piss somebody off, because you're being too even keeled. You don't have a point of view. You don't have any flavor. I remember learning that early on as an educator. It's like you gotta have a point of view, Blake. You know, people. You know, you need to have some spice. If you don't, you know, that will also piss people off.
Totally. And there's a podcast that I listen to called Hack the Entrepreneur, and his name's John Naster, and he did a episode with my life coach Lynn, where they talked about the fact that you actually, in today's world, if you're not alienating people, you're probably not being specific enough about who you are. Which I was like, ooh, that's an interesting thing, because especially as a hairdresser, I was always taught to be like totally Switzerland, right? Like I have no opinions. Like I don't say anything ever about politics or religion or, you know, anything like that. Like that was just something you were never supposed to talk about. But I think that things have just changed so much, because even with the conversations with guests, we used to really kind of say, like, don't talk about much personal at all. Like your focus should really be on two things, hair and them. But now I think our guests want to know who we are, what we are about. And we see that in business too. So to your point, that was kind of John Astor's point too, which was if you're not actually willing to say some things that might make some people go, you know what, I'm not going to follow this person anymore, you're probably actually not being specific enough or bold enough. So
Yeah, that's such an amazing point of view, because I think you just got to like go out there, like Twyla's saying, like, um, you know, being PC makes me feel dead inside, and I think that that's I feel that to the nth degree, because it's like if you're not saying speaking your truth, then you're not being authentic to yourself,
right.
and that's like the worst thing that you could do, is crush your own spirit. So like nowadays, like I have no problem if someone says something that's racist, homophobic, transphobic, sexist, any of anything. I have no problem being like, listen, you can't say that, or you can't speak about that here. I have no problem shutting it down. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have been like, no, just
Right.
let them do their thing. And I can tell you that I love my clientele so much more now, ever since I've been drawing boundaries like that.
Hmm.
And social media is the same thing. I don't want people who are any of those other things I named earlier following me. I don't want that to be part of the community.
Cool. Thanks, man. That was awesome. That was well said.
Thanks.
Bertha asked an interesting question a bit ago that I want to connect to when you are looking at insights, because I know that sometimes we get really caught up on certain numbers within our social media
Yeah.
that will stress us out. So tell us what we should be looking for and what we should be concerned about when we look at our insights.
Thank you, Bertha, for that question, because how many of you guys feel like, or have ever been stressed out by seeing how many likes and views and comments and followers other people get? Just give us like a heart into the chat if you've been there, because if I could put up all my legs and arms at once, I've been there too. And I realized that in today's day and age, people are scrolling faster than ever. You have 6 seconds to get someone's attention. So
Hmm.
I'm going to consider it a win if someone goes and scrolls and watches 6 seconds of my video, or seven
Right.
seconds or 10 seconds. If they don't like and if they don't comment, I don't obsess over that anymore. What I do pay attention to, Bertha, is two things. Or three things actually. One is the impressions. The impressions means is how many times have people gone back and looked at your social media content. Then you have your reach. Your reach is how many unique accounts saw your post. So you have your impressions and you have your reach.
Hmm.
So when I see my reach, that means like so many people saw my stuff, and that's really cool. Impressions, if I see that higher than my reach, then that means that people like the content enough that they came back more, 2 or 3 times to see it. So it's really cool. So that's what I get hyped up on now, versus like likes and comments and views. And then the third thing, Bertha, I do definitely pay attention to is the times that my audience is online. So you can see
Hmm.
the day down to the time when people are online. And that's just when I decide to post.
And that's all
But
within
just,
insights.
yeah, and that's all in your insights in both Facebook and Instagram.
Hmm.
It's so just get hyped on the reach and the impressions. It's much more exciting than like the likes and comments, because to be honest, most people nowadays, like, they look and they're like, oh, it's nice, and then they keep going. So
Yeah.
so just pay attention to how many people are seeing it versus how many likes you're getting.
Yeah. That was another thing that our social media team shared with me one time, Blake, that I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. I didn't know this. But Instagram and Facebook is watching if you stop and look at something. You don't have to
Yeah,
like it. You don't have to comment. You don't have to
100%.
share. But if you stop scrolling and you look at the photo for a couple seconds, Instagram and Facebook take note that, oh, that's a connection to that kind of content. That's why,
Yep.
like, there was a time where I was like, why does this person's stuff keep showing up in my Instagram feed all the time? Because
Yeah.
they were someone that I didn't like their stuff. And what I found was I was stopping and looking at it because I was always like, oh my gosh, what are they posting now? Oh gosh, now they're posting this. And
Yep.
of course, I didn't like it or comment. So I'm like, why does the Instagram keep putting their crap in my feed? And it was because I was
Yeah.
stopping and looking at it.
Yep, 100%. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is that you need to make them stop. So it's like something that can be either eye-catching, or just something as simple as posting a carousel on Instagram, meaning posting
Mhm.
multiple pictures so that people have to stop scroll through so that they can see all of the images is a really great, like, I hate the word algorithm hacking, but it's like a really great like algorithm hacking thing to just make someone stop and scroll through your content.
Interesting. I wouldn't never really thought of that. And I know that for a while there, it seemed like video seemed to get prioritized too. Is that still seem to be correct?
Yeah, I think I've noticed in terms of the type of video content that's doing well, it's still about IGTV, which is Instagram TV, and then definitely Instagram Reels, because Instagram is trying to come after the business of TikTok. So
Right.
Instagram Reels is still being favored heavily. I'm getting really great views on that. And they're fun. They're like only 30 seconds long max. So you can get a lot of engagement from that. But of course, video definitely is doing better because it's way less likely to be edited in terms of like altering the appearance. So some of my favorite things is just taking a pan video of my guest's hair and just posting that video without any sound, because I know that the audience will know that that's not edited. Because I can tell you, I have no clue how to edit video like that to make it look like something else.
Yeah.
I can cut and trim and add text, but that's about where my editing starts and stops.
That's awesome. And what's kind of cool about it is that kind of stuff performs just as well as the heavily edited stuff. Because I'm a
Totally.
quality dork. Like I love camera equipment and great lighting, and great audio equipment, and all that kind of stuff. So I spend a lot of time and energy into a lot of my stuff, but it doesn't make it
Yeah.
perform any better. Like the
Yeah.
handheld shaky camera thing of just someone doing this, talking about their day, performs just as well as my 3 hours of editing with some music and cool cuts in it. And I mean, it basically is for me at that point, but that's
Yeah.
one of the things that's so great. It doesn't have to be pro. It just has to be authentic.
Yep, and that's exactly where it's at. It's just sometimes I was reading something one time that was like, if something is too good of quality, it makes people disengage. So like
Mhm.
on TikTok, when people have these super perfect videos, they rarely do as well as some teenager propping their phone up onto their bookshelf without even a camera tripod. They're getting, hundreds of thousands of views. So sometimes overly edited, over perfect quality can sometimes turn people off,
Yeah.
particularly when you're talking about like younger millennial and definitely into Gen Z. Like it's like the more real, the better.
Yep. We actually saw that even within our own social media on Samvia, on our Samvia Hair Instagram, because we were sharing some of our pretty heavily produced YouTube content. Because on YouTube,
Hmm.
stuff that's really professional looking still performs super well. So
100%.
we were sharing some of that short form YouTube content, like stuff that was maybe 3 to 4 minutes long. We would put that in our Instagram TV channel. It wasn't working, like it wasn't
Yeah.
performing. And then when we would put stuff where it was, me just kind of like phone up, like, hey guys, Andrew Carruthers, blah, 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 and like talking about just like doing some sheer exercises, that would go bonkers. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, interesting.
I can tell you the times that I've had content do the best is the time I've hated it the most. So like too good seems fake, simple seems genuine. You're right, because there's one time I was taking a picture of one of my clients' hair. Um, the ring light was broken. It was midnight when I finished their hair, and I just wanted to get a good image. I took that image and I posted it anyways, even though I hated it. And then it ended up getting picked up by like every major magazine from like Teen Vogue to Huffington Post, literally. And Lisa
That's
Frank shared
amazing.
it, and this was a few years ago. And I was like, what the hell? Like, this is my most hated image, and it's the one that's going crazy.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, that's amazing.
Last year, my least edited video of like, I didn't even like the video very much. I didn't put any music or text or anything, got 200,000 views. And it just goes back to the fact of like, just authenticity is where it needs to be.
Mhm.
And sometimes if you hate something, post it anyways and just see how it does. That's a beautiful thing about social media. You can delete it later if it just, bombs.
Mhm.
So I think that I've learned sometimes if I hate it, I need to put it out there because I'm sure somebody else will like it too.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Um, we had Marquetta Breslin and her husband Ricky on it's probably like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I've seen a couple questions. Sonia, I saw your question about, kind of handling people that can be angry or kind of insulting and things like that with social. We have a whole episode that's actually kind of dedicated to that with Marquetta and Ricky. So I don't want to go too far into it, but I am curious from your point of view, how do you kind of handle the haters?
Yeah, I think that there's 3 ways that it goes down in like my world. One, your community will take care of it before you even see it. So usually like a hateful comment will come on, and then someone who follows you that loves you will say, "How dare you talk to him that way?" So that's one. 2 is that you can kill them with kindness. This is my favorite thing to handle it is, and it's my favorite word. I learned it from one of my mentors, Heather Bagby, and it is, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And that's it. And then you just say, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And then you have that. The other thing is that you can engage them and say like, thanks for the algorithm boosts. And you can be like a little like snarky and push back at them. Because here's the thing, Instagram doesn't know if it's a hate comment or if it's a good comment. They just know it's a comment. And if people are interacting with it, that means that because if there's a hateful comment, people are going to look at it and then they're going to send that picture to their friend. Twyla and I do this all the time. I see, something happening. I'll send it over to Twyla, and then she'll see it, and I know that she'll send it over to one of her friends. And it's like one of those things where it actually boosts your visibility. So when you talk about reach and your impressions, it's really good. But my personal favorite is what I go to the most, which is what Tyler is saying, is thank you for that. My personal favorite is thank you so much for sharing that with me. I use it in real life. I hate my highlights. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. So what can we do to make this better for you? I've gone as far as messaging people. Like when I feel like I've really struck a nerve, I want to know, as long as they're nice about it, maybe they're just a little PO'd. So I have no problem like messaging somebody either and just being like, hey, what's going on? I'll never forget in 2016 when I just said register to vote on my page. That's all I said. I didn't say who to vote for. I just said go register to vote. As a person whose main audience is 25 to 35, I felt like it was my duty to say so. And I had someone just so mad. And I just messaged them and I was like, so what's going on? They're like, well, I feel like you're encouraging people to get political. And I was like, well, what's political about it? I just said, register to vote.
Yeah, for sure. That, something came up too. And speaking of Marquetta and Ricky, I was on their show a couple weeks or last week, actually. And one of the things that kind of came up was that you kind of don't know what people are going through when they post too. And there's no signal of intention in a post. So if they make some kind of comment, often it might even be that we're kind of reading into it. Like they might just comment, I don't like it or something, but then we take it as like, oh my God, they hate me, and we can't read too much into that content either, because they might have just had a crappy day. They're scrolling through your feed, they see something they don't like, and they dump their whole day into your comments. And in some ways, it's like, well, don't return the judgment. Don't judge them for having a weak moment. Just be like, okay, cool. That's their thing, and I'm not going to judge them in return. I'm just going to leave them be. And pretty often, honestly, if you just don't engage, it disappears.
I think that you touched on a really good point too, was like, it's they could be having a weak moment, and sometimes they just say, I don't like it. That doesn't mean that they're saying I don't like you. They just may not like that particular piece of content. So, don't take it as a character judgment on you at all.
Right. And to your point too, on the fact that, well, Instagram and Facebook don't care if it's a good comment or a bad comment. Yeah. So it's still just like engagement. Helping you gain ground and gain focus. And like we have this one video. It was a huge mistake, but we keep it up. So we were in Montreal shooting a photo shoot up in Montreal with like Jeremy and Pascal and those guys.
Yeah.
And during the prep, Geneva and Sam were out there working on hair and stuff, and there wasn't much for me to do because they were doing more kind of avant-garde hair. And we had our video team there. So we're like, hey, let's go shoot some videos. And I'd been thinking about talking about a video working with men like me that have some power at least. But I didn't have a model there that had receding hairline. So I had oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? It'll pop back into my head, but it was one of our camera crew. I'm like, hey, just sit down. I'll just use you as my model and I'll just kind of talk through it. And even in the setup of the video, I'm like, I know that he has the hairline of a god. I get it. I'm just sharing with you. If he did have recession, here's how you would handle it. You would have thought I like killed a baby dinosaur on screen or something. I've never had so many horrible comments. Like, we actually did. Have you ever seen mean tweets?
Yes.
When is it who does the mean tweets?
It's some night show host, I think, or maybe it's like BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed, I think, might do it.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen it, guys, it's hilarious because they basically have stars read all the nasty tweets about them, and it is so funny. So we did a mean tweets version where we read all the horrible comments, and it was so funny. But we leave it up, Blake. It is still one of our most watched YouTube videos. Even though like the 200, 300 comments that are on it are all just telling us how horrible we are because we didn't use a person with a receding hairline. And so we're like, well, it's still a popular thing and we're still making a little ad revenue off of it. So, whatever, leave it up.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a big thing too, is like sometimes people, actually a lot of time people watch videos without the sound on at all. So a big tip is like get closed captioning onto your videos. There's tons of apps for it. And because people watch videos without sound on, so like they have no context if they didn't listen to you. So sometimes it's something as simple as that, you know, or they're just not listening in general, and that's on them and not you. And at the end of the day, it's likes, comments, and ad revenue.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And definitely lots of approval with just like, yes. And if they're being rude, who cares? They aren't meant to be part of the community. And Tara's saying, don't lower yourself to that level. Like, you don't need to engage because it just puts you in that same place. Right. Yeah. And I do like 100%. That. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Thank you so much. I use it all the time in the salon, and it just like calms people. It gives me 3 seconds to take a breath in person. So I can say, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I almost go into like robotic mode so I can take a breath, and then I can approach with like love and kindness and a nice intention versus like defensiveness and anger and judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Twyla was kind of mentioning this, like she kind of put it in quotes because Geneva and Mary and Sam, you know, that kind of crew, when we would get together, there was kind of a thank you for that, you know, in some of our conversations. Like if things got a little heated, like we were trying to be nice, but there was kind of that, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, there we go. Jimmy Fallon. It was
Jimmy Fallon. I knew it was a night host. Yes. There we go. I love it. That's awesome. I really try not doing that, but I just drank someone's sparkling water the other day, and you would have thought that I like did the worst thing to them ever. And I was like, I'll go buy you one. We were right next door to a grocery store. I'll be right back.
So, Blake, you've shared so many just like awesome, powerful things for us. What's kind of your last piece of takeaway that we can share with them to just really make sure that they're making the most out of their social, but also doing it in a healthy way?
Yeah, I think big things. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself first and foremost. If social media is like bogging you down, then just don't open the app. And that's why I'm a huge fan of like turning those notifications off. that you don't need to stay connected. I think that your relationships in real life are way more important than the ones that are digital. But I know for a fact that your digital audience can also feed you in a really beautiful way. So open it up if you are feeling lonely. Maybe someone in your day-to-day life doesn't get it. Because I know that at any given time, I can hop on Instagram. There's a beautiful community of people there waiting for me that overall share the same thoughts and ideals as I do. So just practice boundaries. And I think just go into it with a plan. You got to make time to plan this stuff. You have to be very intentional on who you're going after so that you know what type of content to do, and just solve problems for whoever it is that you're trying to solve problems for. And the content will just flow. After some time, your audience will give you ideas for content. And then that's even more pressure off of you. I just think you got to block out time, because I know that if I spend a couple hours a month on my social, I know my business is better for it in both education and also behind the chair. And also as a salon owner, it's better for it if I dedicate energy to it. But if you're just going out there and you're like haphazardly posting, you're going to get haphazard results. So I think that those are the biggest things I could share. And just be yourself. Like, it's the worst thing to try pretending to be somebody else. And I promise that you'll build an audience of people that love you for you, and not you trying to be somebody else.
So perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. And everyone, let's give him a big thank you in the comments. Show him some love. Say thank you, Blake, or however you'd like to say it. But definitely thank you so much for taking time. It's not lost on us that, you have to take time out of your schedule to come and be part of our community. So thank you for that. And hang out back in the green room just for a few minutes. I'm going to kind of wrap up the show and take care of a few housekeeping things. And then I'll chat with you real quick before you take off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Blake. All right. Wow. Some powerful stuff for sure. I'll admit to you all, I'm still not good at this thing. So this is just as important to me as anyone else. Just real quick, just want to remind you guys that next week we are taking a week off from the education, so we won't be here doing Mannequin Monday, Transformation Tuesday, or Wellness Wednesday next week. We want to give you the time to focus on your beautiful clients and that incredible experience of Thanksgiving week, which can be kind of crazy, so we want to give you some space for that. But we do have some great education coming up. Sammy has a class, a hands-on class, December 6th, 2 to 5. It is digital hands-on, so don't worry. You can go to redkinpro.com/education to check that out. Each person who registers will have an opportunity to win a Sambia Shear package worth $500. So that's pretty rad. And the following week after Thanksgiving, we do have a full lineup. We have Ira Pope Sage for Mannequin Monday. We have Ruth Roche for Transformation Tuesday. We have Yurish Hooker here for Wellness Wednesday. And then we have the following weekend, we have The Show Must Go On Monday, December 7th. Don't want to miss that because we got Brayton Pelletier and Jamie DeGracia coming in to cut some hair with us. Super exciting. It's going to be a great rest of the month for education. And if you're needing tools and you missed the pre-Black Friday sales, don't worry. There's going to be more coming. So just pay attention, head to sambia.com, and you'll have an opportunity to pick up those tools you need at a good price. So thank you guys so much from all of us here at Sambia for taking time out of your night to be with us here on Wellness Wednesday. I'm Andrew Carruthers, the Education Director for Sambia. See ya.